the opening of a live, especially unscheduled ones like this, we get nobody in here, but it's also the start of the recording when people watch it after the live. It's the great debate. Should you just kick live and just blast out of the gate so you have good content at the start of a video when people watch it after the live? Or is it all about the live and you do the kind of the like the TikTok or YouTube thing where you come live and you're just like, I'm just waiting for a few more people to join, and then they just kind of hang out. So I don't know, it's hard to tell, but I am in a good mood, kind of. Because of these fine folks. I can just hold this here for a while. And signed by the man who helped make this stuff happen today, which is Matthew Stafford. It's amazing. My Lions are on a tear, which gives me a bad thing, which is hope. Tim, good morning. Jeffrey, good morning, Aztec. Good to see you on here. It's been a long time. Shout out to Nepal. My original. That's right. You're damn right. You're one of the 7. You're damn right. Yeah. So we've the Lions have won a few games in a row. Almost beat the Bills, and that would have been 6 of them. It's a weird spot to be. Yeah. So I just did some gigs, and I went out to Vancouver and spoke to the Golf Course Owners Association of Canada. And I don't even know who this is because your name isn't attached to it, but I want to know where you're going with that. Out to Vancouver. Always nice to go to Vancouver. Spoke in the middle of downtown versus by the water, which is like, it's been a long time since I've done that. And it was like a storm was coming. And so, I wanted to get home because I had to get from Vancouver down to Foxwoods Resort in Connecticut with a 2-day kind of gap between the gigs. And so it was weird. The storm's coming. Should I leave? Should I get out of there? And I got on a thing, but I went out to get like a Lyft or an Uber, and it was like, might get one in 45 minutes. And the weather wasn't coming down really then. And I asked the valet, I'm like, what is, the chance? He's like, I haven't seen a cab come up to the hotel in an hour. So I walked and took the SkyTrain, which I'd never done in Vancouver, and that was great. Killer. I should take it more often. Gig was great. People were great. Running a golf course in Canada is it's tough. Your seasons aren't like they are elsewhere. It was a great group, great people. And then, flew back with no problems. Got to sleep in my own bed, and then I drove to Foxwoods 8 hours each way. I love driving these days. Like with travel and everything, it's just so... If anybody watching now, if you travel, tell me what you're doing differently. Obviously, the backlogs aren't the same as they kind of were. I used to get to the airport. I live west of the airport in Toronto, which is actually in Mississauga here. I used to leave like an hour before boarding my house. Now it's like 2-3 hours ahead of time. But I've been spending more time, hanging out at airports early. But I'd rather be 2 hours early than 5 minutes late, and I have one job. Just one. I just got to get to the gig. That's all I do. And so we did it. Drove down. Was a great drive. All the way down. Just listened to music. And sometimes, the advantage of giving all of your information and all of your activity to certain overlords helps your music selection. So, YouTube and Google know more about me than I care to know about myself. And I just put YouTube music and just did kind of mix made for you and just drove. I swear I almost listened to that mix and Spotify's mix 8 hours. Just sang and car danced and all the way down. And I wore my flip-flops. Got some questions at certain places that I walked into in the freezing cold. But I'm telling you, I am a non-sock guy until it's just the last resort. I went to Connecticut and did an incredible group of people for Wally Computer Associates. Should I know your name? Like, should I know the actual full name of it? Because I just know he's Wally, but I don't want to screw up the actual name, so I want to make sure. I think it's Wally Computer Associates. Yeah, Wally Computer Associates. I got it. All my Wally folks. It's Heather, who is the person who brought me in, who's a big fan of ours for a long time, and got me into the gig, and Heather was incredible to work with, and her team, like Brooke was one of them as well. Just a great team. I mean, you get into these things where you get to an event and you can tell sometimes where there's tension. There's always tension at events because it's just like there's 1,000 things going on, and you're dealing with a venue, you're dealing with vendors, you're dealing with attendees, you're dealing with your own team, your own people, and the people you're reporting to, and you're dealing with speakers, you're dealing with weather, you're dealing with COVID, you're dealing with Wi-Fi, you're dealing with everything. And they were fantastic. And the company is just like stacked, full of people who've been there forever. One guy there was there, I don't even remember what it was. I think he was like 29 years, 39 years, something ridiculous, like crazy. And a chunk, like the majority, over half their employees have been there for over, I think it was 9 years, at least. And if you don't think retention is what's indicative of leadership, then I don't know what we're talking about. Speaking of leadership. Man, long time no talk. Thank you for seeing that shirt. And I see you. And everybody else. Yeah. Important stuff. And a leader. Oof. It's funny with Ann. Ann's a dynamo. Always been fantastic when I first met. What a great day when we met in person. I gotta tell it. I'll tell a brief version of it. I was speaking at SolarWinds event. I was told by the event organizer that Ann was a big fan, and would I go say hi? And I'm like, yeah, because also that stuff, it's kind of it's weird a bit, not fans or people who are loving our stuff. It's just it's always a weird mind thing. It's like people look at us or our stuff because we have books and doing talks. It's just like I love great people, and I just don't. That self-awareness thing that people are a fan of something and you're kind of thrown by it. So, anyways, I said, hey, do you want to go say hi? And Ann was sitting at a table talking to other people at the event group, and I just kind of sat right beside. I sat right beside and kind of just joined the conversation. And and I started talking. She turned around and she nearly just flipped off the chair. It was great. That was a fun day. And then Ann is just such a dynamo and such has great takes and a great kind of outlook on life. And then she gets this job with Random House. Sorry, Penguin Random House. My bad. The VP of Growth and Marketing Consumer Engagement, and she's still flying. And she's posted on her stuff many times. You know, if you're taking me. If you're taking me, you're taking all of me. Care to look at what I've said recently? And they're like, that's part of why we want you. And yeah, kudos to them as well, and to you. Yeah, so that was fun. That was a fun event. I remember that one. And then, yeah. And then, like, the next time I heard of SolarWinds, there was that breach, and I'm like, oh, God. And you were long gone from that, so that's good. So yeah, you run across certain people, and Ann was one of them, and and Heather was one at this Wally Computer Associates event where you just like, yeah, you're good people. And Heather had written me a message before the Wally event, before our pre-call, because every keynote we do for a conference, for the most part, you're doing a pre-event call where we just kind of talk about it. And she just wrote me this message about how great leadership is there, and she really wanted me to know. And it's kind of the first time ever. I've done 530-ish conferences and keynotes, and first time, unsolicited. I didn't say, hey, how's the leadership there? Because we're talking UnLeadership and stuff nowadays. And she said, I have to let you know what these leaders have done for me. And then I asked permission, and then that's how I ended the talk. I read her message out. And that's, leadership is how people talk about you when you're not around. That leadership stuff to me is like, if you left the company, I want to know where you're going. And can I come? There's companies, and the bigger you get, you kind of get these pockets, as I've been told. I don't know, I don't have a job. But you have these pockets, right? Teams, departments, divisions, and look at that word division both ways. And you have these spots where the bigger the company, kind of like it's almost like these mini kind of cultures and companies that get in there. These little groups, whether it's physical locations or virtual, and you find these little pockets. And sometimes you have this dedication to a company, but that's more also aligned with the higher leadership, sometimes without your reach or your contact. And then a lot of times it's also the original person that inspired you in the company, and you will go dependent on the leader versus the brand. And that's what I love the most of those things. It's kind of like, because company culture changes based on the people who are in charge. So a company that's based on culture, a company that's based on certain things, empathetic leadership and people who get it. And then they're either somebody else takes over, or they're bought, or they're sold, or a hedge fund and that type of stuff. And now it's like, okay, they didn't buy this. Companies don't get bought usually to stay the course. It's just how it works. And it's very, very interesting stuff. Yeah. I know who Chris's boss is, so. Amber's not the worst. Come on. Christopher and Amber, the media dynamic duo of Canada. Love you all. Miss you guys. And Michael confirms the true thing, has a favorite connection, and his great taste in music. I bet. Anybody who's dancing in their LinkedIn kind of icon, avatar, video clip, it's good taste. I was thinking that a couple of days ago about dancing and stuff. Honestly, I got to open a bar or club. It sounds like too much work, but like it opens at 4 p.m. And there'll be light appetizers that you can order or buy, or we can do buffet. I don't know. We'll figure it out. And then the music starts at 6 p.m. But like Kenny G. It's pretty much a wedding. That's what I want to do, right? You have everybody kind of has eat. You don't have to cook or clean or whatever. Food and I don't know. Bring your food. I don't care. We'll cook it for you. And then 6 o'clock hits. We'll have some desserts. We ain't skipping that. Why do you go to weddings if you don't want the dessert? You get some dessert, and then the music kicks in 6. Kenny G, some lo-fi maybe, and then let's say 7. We start playing some music. Let's go. Still keeping it a little slow, but we'll go Eurythmics. Okay, a little Annie Lennox. Start getting into that little 80s. Throw in some Thompson Twins. A little Hold Me Now. And then we'll keep going. We'll move. And then, dude, spell my name right, man. Come on. Hi, Dean. And then we'll start kicking into it, and then we'll get you'll hear 2 Unlimited will come on. You'll be like, was that Milli Vanilli? And we'll mash some 80s, 90s in there. And then we'll just drop it with Tony Genuine at 8 p.m. And we'll party to the wee hours of 10 p.m. And after hours will be 10 to 11. And then by 11 o'clock, whoever's still there will help clean up. And we'll do it for another day. We'll call it oldies. We'll call it potential. I don't know. Potential is like, you suck now, but maybe one day you'll be okay. That's what parents say sometimes. You have potential. It's like, yeah, what are you doing right now? Hopefully this turns into something. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I don't know if you still have the music going. I don't know. But I like it. Makes me feel good. Makes me feel like people are listening. What is going on today? I'm also thinking of doing a weekly kind of show on here with the right time, like with a consistent time, and then people can come on and pick. Because that's kind of the key to live, right? It's going to be really, it's going to be about, you know, consistency where people know. It's like the podcast. It's and thank you, sir. Appreciate you. It's like the podcast, so where we know that consistency is important. The frequency and consistency is obviously really important in anything, in any kind of content. But I've always said this, that you don't want the frequency to outpace the quality. And there's a lot of things that helps you get that muscle going, and whether it's writing a newsletter or a blog post or an article or creating video or going live, whatever that is, it just gets those reps going. But you don't want to, it's mail it in. You know what I mean? And there's always been this pressure where you have to stick to this. And it's obviously it's important when our show would come out every Wednesday at 9 Eastern. But it's a podcast, so there's certainly assumed things with podcasts that it's like, it comes out this day, but I'll listen to it throughout. And our most listens were probably within the first 48 hours, I think, of it dropping, but also had a long kind of shelf life to it. And if you miss a week, you miss a week. And sometimes people are like, where to go? What happened to it? But I think it's really, really important that you don't force it. Especially if it's your own company. Like you call the shots. If it helps you being consistent and putting something out there, sure. And this is not the same as looking back on content from 5 years ago and saying, oh, it was bad. That's called growth. That's called progress. And I look at my talks. I can look at that SolarWinds talk, that I talked about with Ann from that year, and if I watched it right now, I'd be like, ugh, because I'd be saying the word "so" a lot. It took me 4 years to reduce that, just because it was a habit. And you look at the things now, my pace is different now than it was 5 years ago, it especially was 10 years ago. It's very different. Jeez, I got a video of me here speaking. I think it was 10 years ago right here. 2008. Woo! See if I can play this. Dun, 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 dun. See if I can find it. I wonder if I'll break everything on my computer. Hopefully not. Where are you? Let's see. Kind. All right, I'll find it 1 second. Florian, what's up? From snowy Germany. Hey. Howdy. As I said last live, I think it's Frankfurt and Berlin. Been a bunch. Well, twice to Frankfurt, once to Berlin. Then I've been a bunch. 3 times for gigs. Always great over there. Chris says, I'm trying so hard to get rid of the as a verbal crutch. Yeah, that's... especially when you find the spots. That's what I had found. So I taught like presenting and stuff when I was a prof at Sheridan College here. Obviously, I've done a hell of a lot. And one of those things was identifying where it hits. And the It's usually that one at the end of that sentence, right? Where it's just like, and it's almost like it's not an insecurity, but it is, depending on obviously I'm not watching you do it, but it's there. It's just like you want buy-in, you want those head nods. And sometimes your mind is also saying, I need to think that they're approving of this, because it's vulnerable being in front of a group. I don't care if it's virtual or it's in person. It's a vulnerable thing. Speaking to an audience, whether it's 5 or 500 or 5,000, is a vulnerable thing. You are the product. All eyes are on you. Now, some of us like that. Some of us wake up, being prepared for that. It's just my personality and the way I was made up. But the also is just that verbal thing. And one of those things is to keep, and what I do is I call it out like you're doing, and you recognize it's a huge step. And then it's in my head. And then eventually I kind of stop doing it. So I'll watch myself because a lot of times with those things, you don't really think about it, obviously, at the time. Like I used to do this. I used to do this all the time when I was talking. I don't know why. And I caught myself watching the video, and then I would say, okay, what can I do? And it's like those little tools, right? When your hand is kind of floating, just kind of throw it in your pocket for a second or something like that. And that was where those things are. You got to find those. And like, there's different things. So Ben, and what's up, Ben? I say the problem is a lot when asked questions. So that's a huge part. Find those verbal crutches, find those trip ups. And you'll only notice those things a lot of the time, at least in my experience and those I've talked to and worked with this stuff, is like until you watch yourself. And for a lot of people, again, myself excluded, for a lot of people, it's really hard to watch themselves on video or listen or even photos. So it's one of those almost necessities that really, if you do want to get better, and unfortunately for a lot of people, it's really hard for them to do, it's one of the best skills to have in business and heck in life, is the ability to talk to a group of people. But especially in business, whether that's just doing a presentation or a lunch and learn, or you're trying to sell your point across internally in the company, it's that skill set that allows you to say, okay, I see. Whether it's a storytelling angle to some things, or whether it's just how you talk and how you do things, it's really difficult unless you're watching your stuff. See, God's Will says here as well, is what I'm trying to get rid off too. Exactly. Because sometimes it's that, whether it's like is one as well. Dean mentioned he's like a permanent part of vocabulary. So I was like at the store yesterday. And well, yeah, but we all have those things. Okay. And obviously we have to watch for those things. And whatever that, it can be like, it can be this, whatever it is, but it's hard to know. It's like wanting to know if the other one is understanding. But that's it. It's saying, I want that head nod. I do it myself. Whether it's consciously or subconsciously, I'll go when I'm in the audience and it's like, do you know what I'm talking about? And it depends on where I'm at in the talk and the point I'm making. Sometimes I want a point to kind of simmer and I want it to ferment a bit with an audience. And by simmer, I mean 5 seconds or 3 seconds. I don't mean 5 minutes. Right? Whatever ideas stay with you based on your own filters and your own lived experience. But when I want to float something for a minute, I've been working on just the pause and not saying this understanding. I just I'll let it sit 3 to 5 seconds. It's just something that just sits there, and it's just mesmerizing for a moment that you can pause like that. It gives this emphasis to a point. Try pausing. Have 5 sentences and read them on video like you're doing a talk. And then I want you to read those same 5 sentences again, but I want you to count to 3 between sentences. That was 3 seconds right there. Pause. Breathe. It's amazing the difference it'll make. We try to fill the time a lot of the time in presentations and talks to show how much we know, which is not what we should be doing. Because you're already up there. You're already talking. You should know. Give me a little bit less in there and more impact on what we're doing. Do you watch myself more for the like? Okay. AI can do that now. Don't worry about it. Andrew, to the moon. Good morning, sir. Gazwa says, sorry, Gazwa, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, please let me know. But the funny thing is when I'm speaking in my mother language, then the word is really. That's amazing. Please tell me what your mother language is. I would love to know. I think it's fascinating. Florian says, I totally agree. Watch myself is awesome because of my dialect. It's also not easy to listen to myself, but as far as I love to talk, it's not stopping me from talking. You know, I do. I get it. No, and I know what you meant. That's it. And there's just some of those things that in presenting and speaking that we don't know, meaning we don't know how the audience is going to take it. We also don't know how we look outside of our own bodies. We don't also know, like, it's people like hearing their voice like in a recording, and there's this, you know, the psychology of that, because we don't sound like we sound, you know, in our inner ear and our brain and how it works. But that can change it. That can change you. Is I pronounced it right. Sweet. Thank you. That's amazing. And and this is one of those things where, and I've done this kind of in the gigs I've done around the world. I've always been told, be careful when you go overseas, because they don't have the same sense of humor or jargon, or, you know, obviously the slang I'm using, which is true. You know, you have to be very careful with slang and also local regional things where, you know, we call something a fanny pack here. I'm not sure you want to say that in the UK. The word fanny means something else, I've been told. So that is true. But they're also like, so I'm thinking the first time I go do a gig, and this was, I did a gig in Delhi in India, same thing for Istanbul, and same thing for Germany. And I went and I said, you know what? I'm going to do my talk. I'm going to use my humor. I'm going to get them going. I'm going to use my energy. And some of my best talks were India, Istanbul, Frankfurt. Like, it was, I just came out just flying. And it was such a contrast to the other speakers as well. And I didn't do something different. Like, I didn't go out and like pretend to do or over. I was just being me. But it was such a stark contrast that I think it really captured a lot of the audience, which was really nice. Now, mind you have to have that, both the emotion and the personality potential, but also the content to want to get them going as well. So it's an interesting thing. When I taught it in college, I sat through hundreds of student presentations that are 5 minutes apiece. And I think one of the things about getting better at speaking is speaking about stuff you love, because that's how people are most passionate. So for that exercise, for that class, what I did was we threw out the curriculum. I found out later you shouldn't do that. But you threw out the thing where they're like, here's the business topics that these students should present on. I think that's too much. And so I said, because the unit was about presenting, the whole course, business communications was the course. And they're going to do 2 presentations. And I told them all I care about is that their second presentation is better than their first. And the topic I want them to pick is anything. Now it's hard because you have this paradox of choice and blah, blah, blah. But what do you love? What do you like? You like cars? Do you like knitting? Do you like video games? Do you like a certain movie franchise or single movie? I don't care. I did a presentation in high school at night school to get a credit I needed. And I did an entire presentation on Rage Against the Machine, Bullet in the Head song. And I could talk about it. And when they talked about the thing they loved, they were focused on doing the talk versus trying to find the content necessarily, because you want to practice the art of presenting, the art of speaking, the art of talking in front of a room. And our goal was just to reduce their ums, reduce their likes, coming out of their mouth when they were talking, those filler words, those crutch words. There's even an app out there called UMO. I think it's still around, which will track your ums when you speak, when you do kind of a walkthrough or a rehearsal, or you can use it at an actual talk. But it's those little things that'll help out because we do look different. Here, I'm going to see if I can pull up this video. Let's see, this is 14 years ago. Let's see if I can do this video. They want to know why it's good for them. And it has to talk to them. And when you affect them and it talks to them, then they take a step towards you. And I'm going to show you an example of how this all works and how to craft that type of thing. Oh, you hear my voice? Oh, it sounds, I can tell the difference in my voice right now. It's crazy. I wonder if I can play this video and bring the camera in. But you have to remember, both in message and delivery. And what I mean by this is if you're creating a movie, a visual, something there that has pictures, and again, I'll show you an example, pictures and text and music, it's not the music you like. It's not the photos of your summer vacation that goes up. Ugh. See? That's supposed to happen. 14 years later. You watch it and you go, what a difference, eh? My goodness. Yeah, I was. Really, right? I was. Yeah, so that was like right before I hit Twitter and kind of blew it up and did everything. But yeah, that, ooh, all right. All right, one more go. But I want you to listen for, like, ignore. Ignore the facial hair. Ignore the facial hair and everything. But, and this is it, Ben. I know so little now. And I knew so much then. Not as much then when I was 18. But wow. Yeah. So I'm gonna show the video here. Again, I'm gonna show part of the clip. But what I want you to focus on is, again, it's not not that I look 12 or the very bad facial hair. Listen to my voice. Listen to the almost like the accent in there, whether it's Canadian or whatever you want to look at it as, but also how I'm talking and the pacing of it. Trust me, please don't put your summer vacation photos in a viral type of movie. It's not the words you want to read. It's what your market, what your audience wants to see or hear. If you're a big fan of the symphony, heavy metal, rap, I don't care what it is, it's not what maybe your market likes, and you've got to match it. It's what they want to hear. And if you come to me, and I've had people come to me. Yeah. So the pacing was still a little decent there. I wasn't speaking as fast as I thought I would be, but there's still this just hopping to sentence to sentence to sentence kind of thing. And again, the sound is, yeah, and that's it. Thank you. But that comes with time, right? I think, and a lot of stuff, 14 years is a lot, and that's it. It's about reps, as Dean says here too, right? It's, and by the way, like the speaking is what's gotten me to every point of what I'm doing. It's a big part of everything. That's how I graduated high school and college. That's how I got my jobs. And I was a training manager at my second job. And that's how I got my job in HR. Like, your presentation in an interview is a presentation kind of still. And that was the big part. And then that talk was me talking about the viral marketing and the company that I ran, that we made viral videos, and mostly for speakers. And then that's 08. That's right before Twitter and me blowing up on Twitter. That's right before meeting Allison. That's right before the book deal. That's right before all of those things. And it's a really big difference that, obviously you don't know what's coming. And thank you, David. Appreciate you. I like my shirt too. Protect them, please. And that's been the part that really gets me everywhere. And Kaylee, It is. Exactly. Hope you're doing well, Kaylee. I hope. Yeah, and that's and it comes down to all those things. It's for me, it's a lot of the stuff though hasn't been conscious. Like I haven't gone, I need to do this more or this less. It's just been reps. And then watching the talk and then that being in my brain saying, okay, you can do this a little more, this better. And it's also, yeah, confidence and it's age and it's wisdom, which is time plus mistakes, where you get this thing that makes it just come out easier at the time. Yeah, you got to learn how to hold a mic too. Very true. Very true. It's a huge difference in the way this stuff works. Oh, or then we can show this again too. This is my favorite thing to show. Or you just fall off a stage. Again. Like, yep, there he goes. Fast forward 9 years, and I'm falling off stages at automotive conferences with me being the keynote this day and Gary Vee being the keynote the next day. And then fast forward again, and now I get to hang out in Vayner Speakers Bureau, which is very cool. Yeah, straight off. What a goof. What a goof. That's good for me today, I think. I gotta find a good way to get questions and stuff too, like ahead of time for shows. It'd be really good. So yeah, I'll work on the stuff, and I'm thinking I'm gonna try to do something weekly. I don't know, maybe starting next week. Gotta find a good day of the week to do it in time. It's hard to know because like I usually come on at noon, which is why I came on earlier. So Abhishek was really happy in Nepal. And the problem is, like, I'm East Coast. You know, a good chunk of my followers on LinkedIn and stuff are East Coast as well in North America. But also there's a huge, so it's like, if I do it at noon on the East Coast here in North America, it's 9 o'clock on the West Coast. So it's in the morning, and I capture kind of that audience as well if they want to watch. But the problem is, then it's overseas, it's much, much, much later, much earlier. Win-loss, sure. That's about it. So I checked the score. I think we beat you. I think we did. Let's go. Oh, I said this 3 weeks ago. We spun off 2 wins in a row, and I told some of our kids who follow football, I just said one more draft. That's all I want. One more draft. I give the rebuild 3 years. Said it when we started it. Said it when they brought on Dan and crew. That's 3 years. That's what you get. One more draft. Yeah. Oof. I like these guys. Well, I'm glad you like the buttery smooth voice. Thank you, Ben. It's good seeing you on here. Yeah, so I think I'm going to work on probably doing noon Eastern. Maybe next Monday we'll start with that. Just stay tuned on LinkedIn. I'll put it. I'll schedule it ahead of time so you can put in a notification if you want to watch. Be on here. We'll do some live, have some fun. I think. Good seeing y'all. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you